not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed, sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. Her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she, with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. The new Colossus. Emma Lazarus.
I feel like if I was put in that position where I was a DACA recipient, I wouldn't feel comfortable showing my face because I would be scared of something like ICE coming in and deportation. And I personally wouldn't want to take the chance of risking that.
Yeah, no, and I mean that makes perfect sense. I mean, a lot of the people that we interviewed afterwards, I asked all of them if they were cool with it, and they were cool because they know it's only going to be showed in the classroom. However, in my own opinion, I don't want my face blurred because I feel that like, Obama did a lot of fucked up shit, Trump's doing a lot of fucked up shit, and then the government with the media, they kind of put a slant on our perception and they kind of spin the story however the fuck they want to spin it. So I myself, as a DACA recipient, I want to be more of like a Malcolm X, be outspoken, give a voice to the voiceless. Because if I don't speak for my people, who's really gonna speak for them? Who really actually has lived the life of a DACA recipient?
Yeah.
So I am scared, but at the same time, I'm more scared of not speaking up for my people.
And I think it's really important to see that DACA recipients are people just like you and me, like everyone. We're students all here at SF State. We're just trying to get an education and build our future. And I think that we're all just the same and that people need to see that.
And that's why this project is important, because some people will be like, I don't know, I don't agree with this, and it's like you've never lived that reality. That's why it's so important to voice it, to speak it with passion, and sometimes people aren't gonna be happy about it because it kind of destroys their comfortable lives, but I'm more than happy to reveal an inconvenient truth. if it's gonna save lives.
You're right, Tony.
Even though people sometimes think I'm the crazy guy, right?
Yeah.
The angry crazy guy from class. But I'm sorry.
Here, let me get on camera. I have a message. Obama's a bitch. There, okay. That's my contribution.
Hi, good afternoon, SF State students. We are currently doing a social project to bring social awareness to what DACA is. My name is Tony Herrera.
I'm Christina Savick.
And today we decided to come to the Dream Center on campus so we can bring you guys a more vivid picture that is more palpable to the lived experience of DACA students. Now, not all the students that we're interviewing are recipients of DACA. Some of them have family members, friends, relatives, or may not have chosen to participate in DACA because of certain obstacles that were in their way. So let me introduce you to these persons.
Hello, my name is Angela. I am a DACA recipient.
Hi, I'm Litzy. I also a DACA recipient.
Hi, my name is James. I am not a DACA recipient.
My name is Michel, and I am not a DACA recipient.
And my name is Eric, and I am a DACA recipient.
Thank you.
So let's start the conversation. I understand that Eric, you're the vice president of a club known as Ideas.
Yes.
Would you like to elaborate what this is briefly?
So Ideas is a student organization here on campus, and our goal is to support undocumented students here at SF State continue throughout their education and just making sure that they graduate. A big part of colleges, as you know, is support and building community. So that's what Ideas aims to provide.
And as a community leader and social activist, how would you describe to people that don't know what DACA is?
What DACA is, to keep it brief, it's something that President Obama introduced, and it is a law that grants undocumented students a social security and a work permit. When it comes down to it, that's all DACA is. And you have to renew it every 2 years, or you lose DACA, and again, you lose your social security and your work permit.
Is it a path to citizenship?
No, currently there is 0 paths to citizenship. This is why DACA, although it is beneficial, it's not the ultimate goal. What we want is a pathway to citizenship.
What is currently going on with DACA presently?
So with the current situation, with the presidency that we have right now, they're trying to remove DACA, and it would be unfortunate because this means that, again, a lot of not students, but people who are not even students also have DACA. They will lose their work permit. This means that they lose a means on how they could support their family financially.
Why did you choose to participate in DACA?
I think the biggest reason and the most obvious one is because, one, it gives me a social security. With that, I could get a California ED or a driver's license. And that was before the California law that granted undocumented people their license. And also being able to work and sustain myself. One of the biggest things that is out there is that people come to this country to steal jobs and to kind of just take charge of the benefits that they have. That's definitely not the case, and through DACA it gives us an easier way to contribute to our society.
So the previous administration, the Obama administration, did favorable things to help the undocumented community, right? By passing the DACA.
It did. It had certain aspects. No presidency, in my view, is perfect. So Obama was also one of the biggest persons who deported a lot of people during his presidency. So he had that, but again, in a different way, he was able to help 11 million people here with DACA.
And the current administration, President Trump, wants to extend DACA?
No, he wants to completely remove it, and that's what this whole topic of the Supreme Court and DACA is happening.
But according to statistics, DACA is beneficial to the U.S. economy, correct?
Yeah, and not even to U.S. statistics. I think if you have a brain, sorry to put it this way, you could see right away that we are contributing to the economy. DACA, when you renew it, it costs $495. So for the past 6 years, I've been paying $495 to renew this. Again, 495 times what 11 million people would be, it's a large number that's going to the US.
But then that also gives you access to social benefits, right? So you're leeching off the system, as many people who oppose DACA would say?
Well, on how you phrase that question, it depends. I don't see it leeching off. If we're contributing to, let's say, the social welfare, then we should also be able to use those benefits, right? So from my paycheck, taxes are being taken away, and I should also be able to use those for, let's say, like Medicare or Medi-Cal.
So, do you have other friends, other relatives that have participated in DACA, and how has it changed their lives? How has it changed your life?
Yeah, so for myself, one of the biggest things that I want to continue to emphasize, the work permit. It helped me out a lot. I went from being
It stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and it was an executive order passed in 2012 by Obama. And so what that means is that he didn't get congressional approval. But it's a program that it gives an opportunity for kids who were brought here like when they were younger, before the year 2007, like they are given like a social security number, so then they're able to work, and then they can also go to school. And luckily in California there exists a thing called AB 540, which allows students to get in-state tuition, but in other places, even though people have DACA, they still have to pay out-of-state tuition as if they were like an international student, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even though they grew up here and went to high school here and probably were in your classes.
Okay.
And also they can't get driver's license, so with DACA, some are able to. I know that there's some states that don't allow that, like I think maybe North Carolina.
Is there like a long, lengthy process to maybe get those options?
Actually, DACA is like, it's only a temporary solution for us. So it lasts 2 years. So every 2 years we have to pay like $590, $490 or $450. I don't remember. To renew our application, and so the Dream Resource Center actually offers free legal assistance to help us with that, but we still have to pay the $400 something. If they didn't offer that, for example, like when I first started here, we didn't have all these resources, and I'm a 4th year now, so I had to pay out of pocket, like to an actual lawyer, because
Well, then what would happen if you didn't pay it?
if I didn't do it, then I wouldn't be able to work. I probably wouldn't be able to go to school because I wouldn't get like aid. Yeah, so DACA students or documented students in general, they don't get federal financial aid. So as like your Pell Grant and all that you guys get, we don't get that. And we're lucky enough to be in California that we get state aid, but some people do not qualify. It's just like, it's like if you're lucky, it's like your parents don't make a lot of money, like you get it.
So is the requirement based on the salary of your parents or yourself, or
it's like FAFSA. It's like but they only give you like state aid, or the school gives you aid. But there's, like I said, like we're lucky to be in California that we get a lot more help. I would say that we have like more resources here than as like Florida or North Carolina, where people like undocumented students or people in general, they don't receive all this help. And I remember I wanted to apply to a school in Virginia, and they didn't even accept applications from immigrants. So it's just like DACA was a way for us to like get an education, but it only benefits I think 800,000 people, and there's like 11.5 million immigrants in the country. So it's a very it's like putting a band-aid, on like an open wound. Like it's helpful for that many people, but I don't think that, well, us DACA, like once we have it, we don't think it's enough, because we still have to renew it every 2 years, and we're still at risk of getting denied.
So well, you said that it is only active for 800,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you were saying that there's more. So, in order for more students to become a part of DACA, would you say that there needs to be more awareness? I mean, would you say that the people who are a part of DACA maybe aren't as vocal about their situation? I mean, do you
No,
feel
I
like
think we're very vocal about it. I just don't think. Sorry, excuse my language. People don't give a fuck. Like they.
So, do you have other friends, other relatives that have participated in DACA, and how has it changed their lives? How has it changed your life?
Yeah, so for myself, one of the biggest things that I want to continue to emphasize, the work permit. It helped me out a lot. I went from being working with no social security, so I was stuck at a job and I was definitely being exploited by my employers, to now having a work permit and I could work in any field that I choose to, because now I have a social security that allows me to do that. For people who I know who also have it, it would be my siblings. My siblings are also DACA recipients, and again, they benefit by being able to work with a legal status in this country.
Without DACA, would you be able to attend SF State?
I definitely would be able to attend. As a matter of fact, we have many students who attend SF State. So I think another misconception is that DACA in one way helps you to study or helps you at universities. Not necessarily. Before DACA, I was at a community college and I was still attending a college without a social security. So I think DACA and being a student, they don't necessarily go together, although they could.
I think we're very vocal about it. Just people don't care, and they don't. It doesn't concern them. They have a privilege. They don't realize they have a privilege, and therefore they don't look into other people's struggles. But what we say is that it's not enough, because it protects us from deportation, but it kind of creates this model citizen narrative where it criminalizes the people who don't have an education or don't have the ability to pursue an education, and it's kind of like saying, these are the good few of the 11.5 million that are here, and that's not a good thing to do, because again, it criminalizes an entire population, and it's saying only these few people can get it. And everybody deserves a chance to have a job, to be able to drive your damn car, to
seems like universal right. It seems like something that would be a natural feeling.
Yeah. And so that's why a lot of people who have DACA, they demand what's called the DREAM Act, but people have advocated for a path to citizenship. And although it's not for all the immigrants that exist in this country, it could help a lot of people.
And then what would you say to people that are against DACA in order to persuade them to see the benefits?
I don't really see why they would be against it unless they don't know what deferred action for childhood arrivals means. I think if once they have a better understanding, it will see that it's not affecting them in any way. So I would say they should look into the program before they form a point of view.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today we're interviewing. We have the privilege to have Norma Salcedo. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Norma Salcedo, and I'm the AB 540 Dream Coordinator at the Dream Research Center here at San Francisco State University.
So, Norma, I'd like to ask you a few questions so that we can bring more social awareness to our class. What is DACA? What does DACA stand for?
Yeah, so DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So it's an executive order that was announced by President Obama in 2012. And basically what it does, it allows undocumented youth who are under the age of 31 who arrived to the U.S. before their 16th birthday and before 2007 and have been here consecutively from 2007 till it got announced in 2012, they're eligible to apply for a 2-year work permit and a social security number. And it's a very comprehensive sort of application that they have to apply for. They have to prove that they either went to school or are going to school to qualify. And the first time that they apply, they have to also be under 31. So and they have to have been under 31 the date of the announcement or when they're applying. And as it stands right now, DACA has been challenged by the current presidential administration, and because of that, there have been some court rulings that have brought it back, DACA, but only those who have already had it can apply to reapply. But if I am a new student who wants to apply for the first time, I cannot. So new individuals who want to apply, they cannot apply. You don't have to be a current student to be a part of it. You just have to prove that you had some sort of education to apply for DACA. And yeah, that's what it is.
Thank you. That was really insightful. Also, something that I'm a DACA recipient myself, and it was also that if you served in the military or if you were honorably discharged, you would qualify for DACA. So it means that these people are really patriotic and they're for America. But also, like some of the opposing views to DACA, as they would say, well, they're bringing in crime, they broke the law. Why should we give them the opportunity to be in this country? How would you rebuttal that?
Well, the media portrays being here as an undocumented individual as this catastrophe, this like huge, they broke this huge law. And actually, as it stands right now, coming over as an undocumented individual to the U.S. is equivalent to a parking ticket. But you wouldn't know that based on what you see in the media, based on how undocumented immigrants are portrayed in the media. And this whole like breaking the law, it just, the anti-immigrant rhetoric just stems from systemic oppression, from racism that is constantly being put on marginalized communities. So there's this focus on immigration because of where these individuals are coming from. But you don't see the same focus on individuals who got caught, embezzling money, right? Because they're usually predominantly white, heterosexual males in Wall Street. So you just see the difference of how crimes are being defined or how they're being portrayed in the media. So it's not really a rebuttal. It's just, these individuals are coming to the U.S. for a better life. They're leaving back a crime-infested, countries that have been taken over by war, and many of these countries have been put in those predicaments because of the involvement of the United States, right? If you look at Central America, if you look at South America, how much the United States has been involved in those countries that have caused these wars, that have caused these sort of conditions that pretty much push individuals to leave their home country to have a better life for them and their families. So the United States has been known to bring over undocumented immigrants whenever it suits them, right? We look back at history, we've had the Bracero program, we've had, just all these different, when we were building the train tracks across the U.S., and how we brought like the Chinese over, Filipinos in the farm industry, Mexicans in the farm industry. Like, it's only when it's convenient to the United States, but when it's not, they put all these barriers, and it's definitely not okay. We should be a country that is welcoming to all and that provides avenues for individuals who want to become a U.S. citizen to become a U.S. citizen. We've had amnesties in the past. The last time we had an amnesty was in the 80s. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, like my parents were able to adjust their status because of that last amnesty that happened in the late 80s.
I believe it was 1986.
Yeah. So like, and you know, there's a lot of undocumented immigrants who don't care to be U.S. citizens. They just really just want to survive. There's also the assumption that, you know, they want to join the military and they want to be U.S. citizens. And the truth is that everybody's in their own journey, and they just don't want their own being to constantly be scrutinized, right? Like, if you think about any other policy that is violated or law that is violated, no one really impacts the person as much as an undocumented individual. Like, you're telling someone that your being is quote unquote illegal, which, you know, no human being is ever illegal. You know, here at the German Research Center, and just in the documented work, we don't use the term illegal, because I truly don't believe that an individual human being can be illegal. You don't call someone who got a speeding ticket an illegal, right? Like, but then someone who, you know, came here to this country, why should their being be illegal? So I hope that answered your question. Sorry, it was a little long-winded, but
no, thank you so much. And I mean, just to extend your point, for anybody that's out there opposing, saying that they break the law and they're criminals and this and that due to the presidential rhetoric, correct me if I'm wrong, but in order to qualify for DACA, you can't have any felonies or any serious misdemeanors.
Well, there is some restrictions on criminal activity that the individuals have had, but it's case-to-case basis. That's definitely a conversation that needs to happen with lawyers. So we always recommend students who have been in some sort of a situation with the police to always talk to a lawyer. And, you know, and I think criminalization in general is also a huge issue. Like, who says, like, who is worthy and who is not? You know, people make mistakes. You know, I know countless of people who have gotten, you know, tickets, who have gotten DUIs, and, you know, it's just part of human nature. People are going to mess up. So we definitely advise individuals to always consult with a lawyer. Like you said, with the new new president's administration, they have been cracking down on any little thing to not renew people's DACA. So I don't know the exact sort of like amount of criminal activity that you need to do in order to not have DACA. So at the end of the day, we always advise people to talk to lawyers about that. Yeah.
I mean, the reason I brought it up is when I went to go get to the Homeland Security to go get registered for DACA, they took everything. They scrutinized my background.
Right.
They did everything. Fingerprints. They even scanned my retina, and they were checking all my like if I had a criminal record and if I did what I had done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of strict regulations, but like you said, who are we to be the judge and jury of somebody?
Right. Yeah.
And then thank you so much for your participation. For the next student, what was your name and your major?
My name is Michel, and I'm a computer engineering major.
And you are not a recipient of DACA?
I am not a recipient of DACA.
But you're pro DACA?
I am pro DACA.
Why?
Why? Well, mainly because if I had the chance, I would have DACA right now. Due to circumstances, I wasn't able to actually apply. Because for the same reasons, you know, that were explained earlier, you know, would help me out a lot, you know, in terms of, you know, getting a job, more, you know, security, and trying to find a job, better job, like, you know, with benefits and things like that as well. And plus, I also have family as well that would benefit from from DACA as well.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I was looking at was that the average age of a dreamer when they entered the country was 3 to 6 years old.
Yeah.
Most of them were brought over by their parents, which just means that they didn't make the choice to come over.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, even that statement in itself, I have a huge problem with that, because that's what the government wants us to do, is to put the blame on these parents, who all they were trying to do is think about a better life for their families. So I think we need to, I personally think we need to stay away from the rhetoric of like, well, it wasn't their choice, their parents brought them. So that, because then what that brings is that it brings only opportunities for those young students and not their parents. Because then then that criminalizes their parents, and they're like, well, it's their parents' fault that they're here because their parents brought them. So let's only focus on young undocumented youth. And I don't think it's fair. Like, I would never blame my parents for any decision they made for the betterment of my future, you know? So, and you know, these children come at a very young age. They've been here.
And then I'd like to open up the conversation for all the other participants. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say pro DACA, against DACA, their feelings, the way they think?
Maybe possibly how it has influenced their life in a positive way. Why is it that you're here helping?
Or if
what kind of relief that you can give?
If you guys have any relatives that seen that they benefit, friends.
So I can comment on it. I am a recipient of DACA, but my mother is not, and it does limit her to certain benefits when she gets sick. She's in a very serious condition right now. She can't take sick leave because her job doesn't allow her to. She works on her own. So just by that's another thing that other people go through. And not only my mother, but thousands of more people, parents, go through that. So that's a limitation for my family, and I have to be responsible. I benefit from all these stuff, and I try my best to not like make myself feel superior than anyone else in my family. Because I know it may bring them down, and it does bring several like emotions in the family.
As for me, I have a lot of friends who are covered by DACA. I would just like it for it to be more talked about, since I personally don't know much about it.
For me, it was always kind of isolating because where I'm from, there's not a lot of DACA recipients or people who don't have to worry about their immigration status. And I've always been the like younger person out of the groups. So a lot of people have like been worried for me in regards to my immigration status, because before I had DACA, I didn't have any kind of protection, and I couldn't apply for jobs even when I like felt like I needed to. So there was always that sense of like feeling that you have to constantly be dependent on someone. There's no independence if you can't work or if you can't like have a social security number, at least in my opinion. So having DACA for the 2 years that I've been with DACA now, it's been really nice to just feel like I can take care of things on my own and don't have to be like constantly worried or worrying others.
I understand that feeling of I hear when people are like, well, it wasn't their fault, and yes, to that some extent, like yeah, they were brought here, but you always hear people say like, I would do anything for my children, but somehow when it comes to immigration, it's just not that. But like until you're a parent, you can't really say what you will not do. Exactly. Like, you know, like you can't, like I can, like even to this day, like I salute my parents for leaving. They left everything behind to come to a country that hates them just to give me and my sisters a better life, and to that I would always be grateful.
I mean, those are just powerful words. I mean, the reason I brought up the statement, I mean, and you might be a little bit surprised as to who said them, but that was actually rhetoric from President Obama, who gave a speech and who said it would be a travesty to send them back because they weren't the ones who broke the law. And since we're on the subject of Obama, how would you describe his move towards the executive order of making DACA? Would you say that he was the biggest proponent, or would you say that his hand was more forced because of the re-election?
You know, like pretty much any legislation that has come about to support the undocumented community has been due to the strong advocacy of immigrant groups, immigrant advocates who went to the White House, who went to DC, who pretty much pressured the administration to do something. And I truly believe that Obama created that executive order because he was up for re-election and he needed to do something. He was not being viewed in a good light. Over 3 million individuals were deported under his administration. Wow. More than any other president. Obviously, the current president is surpassing that, but you know that's that's a given what kind of president we have. But for Obama, it was to this day people don't know that. They thought, he's this great president who's doing all these amazing things. But behind closed doors, he literally created this deportation machine for this current president. So people are like surprised, like, oh, how is this current president able to do everything that he's doing? Pretty much, Obama gave it to him in a silver platter. Like, just because you support a legislation doesn't mean that your statements are accurate, right? Like, Obama still had a lot to learn, still probably has a lot to learn when it comes to the immigrant community. But he did try to create a process for parents called DACA, Deferred Action for Parental Arrivals, and that one didn't go through, didn't make it past the courts. And so I know he tried, but I don't think Obama was perfect, and I think it is very important that we are critical of all of our presidents, regardless of how much we admire them. And I am one of those individuals that I do say I know that Obama did some great and amazing things, but when it comes to the immigrant community, I really do think that he failed them. And I think that he could have done a lot more than he did, and also acknowledging that he had a really hard time because he didn't have a Democratic Congress and House for a really long time, and they kept stalling every decision he was making. So you also kind of have to look at the whole picture, and at the end of the day, I still think there could have been ways that he could have supported a lot more.
And so something that I found very striking was that you had a remark that said that it's very freeing, it's very independent. But under DACA, and I'd like to go back to Eric, can people still be deported even though you're a DACA recipient?
No, they cannot. So if you have DACA, that's also another guarantee that protects us, that we cannot be deported. As the title entails from DACA, it's deferred action, so we're being deferred. So again, it's not a pathway to citizenship. We're just there paying our $495 every 2 years and not being deported. Again, if this presidency takes away DACA, then all the students who were on DACA, or people who were on DACA, then they become eligible to be deported if Homeland Security stops them.
Also, from the research that we conducted with my team, we researched that first-generation DACA recipients are 3 times more likely to start new businesses. Is that correct?
I wouldn't be able to say yes to that question. I've never looked into the statistics for entrepreneurs who are in DACA. What I will say is that it's definitely possible. One of the persons representing DACA students who's fighting at the Supreme Court is also a DACA recipient. So he went from being undocumented to now being a representative at the Supreme Court.
So would anybody like to share any personal experiences, any feelings about how they feel that at this time and moment, pro DACA, against DACA, anything that they'd like to share with the audience that perhaps somebody might not know about DACA?
I just want to piggyback off the subject. My colleague that was saying it, makes things a lot easier. It definitely does, in a lot of different ways. Like, I'm 27 years old and I don't have credit, a single line of credit. And right now I'm homeless. I'm living at an uncle's in the East Bay, and I don't have a place to live. And I'm looking for places to live. And I've found a lot of places, and they're out there, but a lot of them ask for a credit report. And that kind of sucks, because being at 27, I feel like I should already have something of the sort. And it's only because of those circumstances that I'm not able to. Well, I know I can now through my bank, but even then, to build that credit, it's gonna take a couple of years. And there's other things as well, like healthcare. Like, the last time I went to a doctor was like maybe 10 years ago. Like, and that was because I was on Medi-Cal, whatever it was that I had, before you turn 18. So I haven't been to the dentist, things like that. I haven't gotten my wisdom teeth taken out, like, things like that. I would like to, like, I know there's things, there's sources like that here on school that I can go, like, for like the doctor and things like that, or whatever it may be, but there's limitations as well, like, so it definitely does make things a lot easier in that sense, for your healthcare, your mental health, like, whatever it is that it may be, you're able to take care of yourself a lot better as well. I mean, I still can, like, but you know, if there's some sort of medical emergency with me, I have to pay all that out of my pocket, you know. So, you know, there is that benefit from that as well.
So Norma, my following question is, I was looking over some of the statements, and some of the statements from Biden and Obama were saying that the Dreamers, if it were to pass, when DACA it was the conception of DACA, they were saying that they contribute, it was projected to contribute over $400 billion over the next 10 years. But how would you answer to somebody whose argument to support the DACA is solely economical, like, oh, they're beneficial to the economy?
And I think, to me, I think that is a huge issue, because you're still seeing people as profits instead of seeing them as human, right? Like, you're saying that they are worthy of opportunities because they can create revenue for us. And at the end of the day, like, that should not be the main, like, reasoning of why we're supporting these individuals. It should be because there are human beings who just want to be human and want to be able to work and, you know, contribute to the you know, communities, regardless of what that way would be, whether it be working, whether it be volunteering without fear of getting detained, whether it's just walking down the street, whether it's building a family. Like, not everyone wants a career, not everyone goes to college. And it goes back to the good, bad immigrant rhetoric, is that they want to kind of formulate this, like, these are deserving immigrants who deserve to have DACA, the ones that go to college, the ones that work hard. And then, but what about those that don't want to go to college, that don't want a career? Like, they're not worthy. And I think that's a huge issue. Yes, it is important to acknowledge that DACA recipients have contribute, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars to the economy. That's just one reason of many of why these individuals are deserving of this opportunity. So I definitely don't think that the focus should be on money, because then it becomes sort of like a business aspect, and this individual's lives it's not a business model, right? It's their lives. Their lives are at risk.
Yeah, because I was pretty appalled when I heard them speak, and he was saying, well, we've already invested so much in their education because they've been here since they were very young.
Right.
So why are we going to throw away all this investment, which are them? Why are we going to throw away all this investment, which is them, right? All the public education and stuff like that, and send them back to their countries, which they don't even know.
Yeah.
We should just keep them and kind of harvest them for economic profits.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, would you like to say any closing remarks for anybody that still might be doubtful about supporting DACA, or anything that you'd like to say to your audience?
Yeah, well, you know, DACA has been a great opportunity. Well, you know, I work in the education sector, so it's been a great opportunity for my students who want to pursue careers at post-graduation. And, you know, it's important to acknowledge, like, how many lives will be destroyed if DACA were to be removed, while also acknowledging that we have thousands of undocumented youth who never qualified for DACA and have not had the opportunity to apply for DACA. So how are we supporting those individuals as well? And it kind of brings about this idea that, you know, DACA is not the solution, right? There needs to be an immigration reform that is for all, not just the youth, right? We have parents, we have older siblings, we have individuals who, even if DACA gets reinstated and new people can apply, they won't be eligible to apply because of that age limit. And I think that is very divisive, right? Like, there needs to be an option that all undocumented immigrants can qualify for. And if I would say anything, is, you know, continue to advocate for reform for all. To continue, if you have the privilege of voting. You know, a lot of these individuals are contributing to the community, but yet they cannot make political decisions for their community because of their status. So, you know, being involved in local politics is important, state politics is important, as well as, you know, the federal politics. So definitely stay informed and don't believe the hype. Definitely. The media definitely is a tricky place to find resources, so be very careful of where you're finding your information, and make sure that it's truthful. Don't repost or retweet something that you have not confirmed, because it can definitely be misleading and uneducate a lot of individuals across networks. So yeah.
So you're advocating to be a conscious consumer of information.
Yes.
Yeah. And on that note, since I don't want to take any more of your time, I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It was a huge honor and privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony.
In Netflix called When They See Us. So when they see us, like DACA recipients, how do you think they perceive us?
I think it would depend, on what perspective we want to talk about. If we're talking about the right, then they, for the most part, we're seen in a negative light. For all the same reasons as they've always been. We're taking jobs, we're this and that. It's the same thing. I don't have to go by that all over again. Democrat on the other side, I'm not. I guess I wouldn't say that. I can't say that I know for sure because I don't really pay attention. To me, it seems like it would be a little bit more positive, but I don't know if they fully know what they're talking about when they report it. When they are talking about it, are they aware that DACA is not a full path to citizenship? Do people know that? Do people know about what's going on with DACA students? With the whole deportation that was going on too. Some DACA students were also affected with that. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't know.
So expanding on your point of if they were to terminate DACA, because it's not a path to citizenship, what would happen to y'all? Or what is the understanding that you guys have?
I mean, I can take it if you don't mind, yeah. So for me, and I'm just speaking for myself, yes, I have DACA and I have a lot of benefits, but also I was about 18, until I was 18, I didn't have DACA. So I know what it's like to live without DACA and what it's like to live without it. I also know what it's like to live in a presidency where they're more knowledgeable and acceptant and they accept more people. And I also live in this presidency where, due to Trump's rhetoric, it created a whole atmosphere where people don't look at immigrants in the best of light. So I think for myself, if I have DACA, that's great. If I don't, you know what, we gotta continue living. If I just kind of put myself down and go through just a bad thought or a bad set of mind, I don't think that's beneficial to me. Again, that's just speaking to myself, right? My experiences is different from everyone else's. So, I mean, I'm happy we have DACA, but that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to find a pathway to citizenship. It is exhausting hearing that. Why don't you just apply for citizenship? Yeah, I would if you tell me how I could do that and what law would help me do that. But there's no way to do that.
See, that's actually interesting because for me, I lived in the Philippines before, and my mom, she moved here 2001 and she picked me up 2006, and then she said, "You're gonna live here," and I said, "How?" And she's like, "I'm gonna petition you," and I was like, "Okay." And at a very young age, you don't understand that. Now that I know better, now that I have gained some knowledge on what the current issue is about, I am definitely coming from a place of privilege where my citizenship was secured, and to know that DACA recipients are just like everyone else. They're students, they're friends, they're family. To know for me that friends, family, and loved ones might get taken away or be separated when they're just trying to be like everyone else and work hard, that in itself is very disheartening because it's inhumane, at least for me. You can't just take somebody away just because they don't have the proper documentation. If they contribute to society, if they have good intentions, if they are good people, they should stay here. They have the right to be here.
So when you talked about a pathway to citizenship, you mentioned how that should be kind of the ultimate end goal. How do you think we can get there in the end? What do you think are like the necessary steps that need to be taken to get there? And what does a pathway to citizenship look like? How does it manifest in the end?
Yeah, so there have been Democrats who have tried to implement pathways to citizenship. It would look like something, this is a rough example, like let's say you gotta live 10 years in this country not have a criminal record, and show that you're contributing to society. So that would be an example of that. But then Republicans go, or conservatives go and say, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to create any pathway to citizenship, which again, I don't know from what mindset they're coming from. If people want to contribute to your society and help create jobs and help with the economy and serve in the military and fight for this country's freedom, as how military people put it. Again, there's so way that we could go about it, but due to bureaucracy and politics, I don't see it happening anytime soon, which is unfortunate, but at least I could still have a little bit of hope that maybe the next president could do that. So again, it could take, it could go from within the next presidency to not happening for a couple more decades to come.
You said the military because as a DACA recipient, we have to get registered, right?
Yeah, so everyone who applies to DACA, they have to apply to serve in the military as well. And we all do it. I signed up to serve the military if they called on me. And every person who also has DACA had to sign that as well.
Is that including women?
That isn't, you know what? I'm not gonna say yes to that one. I don't know about women just because I've never, I don't know how the military and women work.
I am pretty sure it doesn't involve women just because I don't remember, I don't recall. I will be going back next month to resign my DACA actually, and I will actually ask my lawyer about that, but I'm pretty sure they don't ask, but they do kind of like ask for another part, something similar to join the military, just like as an adult.
Yeah, and on top of that too, being I don't have DACA, but I still have to sign up for selective service as well if I have to, if I want to get any sort of financial aid. So for like the DREAM Act, which is one of the things, forms of financial aid that I can get, I have to sign up for selective service, which is kind of strange because I have to do something like that, but then I don't get.
Right. So if you're basically saying, hey, I'm gonna fight and possibly die for this country, yet I can't become a citizen.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of
pretty
weird.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. When you think of it, you go, that doesn't seem accurate.
And to add to the military, so my sibling, he wanted to join the military, but due to his status, he couldn't. So you also have a lot of immigrants who want to fight for this country, right? In whatever way they see that. And again, they're being denied, as opposed to politicians, let's say Trump, for example, who found a way to get out of not serving the military, yet he's the person imposing on people who want to serve, but they don't let them. So again, when it comes to bureaucracy and politics, it's tricky to navigate.
And to jump on top of that too, it's like we all come from, we may our nationalities are, our heritage, are maybe from different areas, but at the end of the day, we were raised here. If I were to ask my cousins or whatever, they would call me American and they would make fun of me for that. But if I'm over here, I'm not called American, I'd be called something else. I'm kind of in a state of limbo, and so it's like, I can basically already say that I am from here. I just don't have the documentation to prove it.
I can elaborate on that just because I know when I told my friends from high school, oh, I actually can't join you for this trip to Mexico, I can't go on the cruise. And then my coworker found out that I'm a DACA recipient. She's like, oh, really? I didn't know. What do you see me as? Like, that's just a general question because what do I look like? I may not look American, but you also see me as a Latina, but what's my identity for you?
Yeah, there's also that test of your own hometown that you have to prove you're from there, and by proving you have to be there and live there for at least a couple of months, and you can't do that if you're not under DACA, or if you have DACA, you can't go back to your hometown and be like, oh, well, I know what it's like over there, because you don't. A lot of people were brought here really young. They don't know their hometown other than pictures or videos they see from relatives or online or something like that. So there's also that like test from your own people to like prove that you're from there. And then there's the test to prove that you're from here.
And that's understandable because you can't travel outside of the country while you're a DACA recipient, right? Because you're under the threat of not being able to be allowed to enter back.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, how can you maintain that relationship with your home country if you were never allowed to visit?
Job or your school or a hospital outside of the US shows that you have to leave the country, you have to go to a judge and they have to approve it. If they don't approve it, well, basically you're stuck here. You're not able to communicate outside with others, even if your job or your school asks you to do that. So that's another thing. It's basically up to a judge in court if they allow you to leave the country.
Yeah, that also includes like medical reasons. Like if you have to get treated in a hospital aside from the US, you also have to go through that process of a judge. It's never like, you do have options, but it's never like clean cut. You always have to be constantly being approved to do anything.
The reason I mentioned that was because there's a lot of documentaries of DACA that have been done in Netflix, and a lot of the legal advice, they say that they might grant you access to travel outside, but they don't guarantee you that you'll be able to permitted to enter once again, especially under the new administration, which has zero tolerance. So would you guys feel safe to go out and visit if, let's say, one of your loved ones in your home country had an emergency? Or would you guys just be forced to stay here under the fear of not being allowed to enter back?
Definitely not feel safe, just because I know, one, now you can't just look, here's my passport. Now you have to get like a certain ID for you to travel. So that alone takes process. And if it's an actual emergency, you have to wait that time. And it's very hard. I know that if they see that you don't like belong here, or that you're just a threat to this country, then they'll stop you and like search you and do this kind of stuff, and that's not fair. Like it happens to my own stepdad, and he's actually a citizen, and he's like, no, here are my papers, like what are you doing to me? And that's still unfair to him, and he comes back to the stories and he tells it to us, and it's like, really, like they still do that to you? So it's kind of not fair.
There are like so many like thoughts that just came that I like.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I was reading that as well. I was reading, or I was watching the video from one of the people who had helped write the program about DACA, and they were talking about how going into the case, they were focusing on how just morally it was wrong, that it doesn't just influence the people within DACA, but also their families, their work, the school systems, everything that they help support. So, I mean, I think that was a pretty influential argument point, right? I mean, and I would assume that they would use quite a bit of personal stories. I mean, they talked about people who graduated from UCLA who are recipients of DACA. So, I mean, that's fairly impressive. I mean, you talked about, you know, that marginalization. I mean, does DACA program in some ways seem like maybe just a Band-Aid over a larger issue?
Yeah, it definitely is. Like people like Trump and like the whole administration, they like to criminalize immigrants, when in reality, like it's just a few, you know, like, you know,
there's bad
you don't
people
have to
everywhere.
generalize the whole population of people over like some bad seeds, you know. And I don't know if you saw that yesterday. He tweeted saying that DACA recipients are criminals, this and this and that.
Yes.
But what they don't know is that we actually have to go through a really extensive background, like what do you call it?
Background check.
So from what I heard, there were everything within DACA required you to go through the proper process, so that way you weren't doing anything illegal, so that everything was
so
safe,
they check
right?
if you've ever committed any felonies, you know.
Well, I mean, if you were under
even something small as a DUI can affect your DACA. Like they would probably. I know somebody actually got a DUI, and then he renewed his application and he got denied just because he got a DUI, you know. And it's really unfair because we're human, you know. It's basically, like I said, it's creating that narrative, like you have like a very like good model citizen, and that's not right. We're not given the chance to fuck up like you guys. Even though we grew up here, we're in your classes, you know, we're normal fucking people, and they don't see us that way.
So, I was actually wondering, when you said that, obviously you said the Trump administration has a large part in trying to get rid of this, and I was wondering, how much blame do you actually put on the Democrats in Congress who might not be fighting hard enough for this? Say Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, people like that. Do you think they could be doing more to try and support this?
I think that they could be doing more to try and support the entire population, the immigrant population in general. I don't know if you guys know, like, we're not eligible for, like, healthcare or, like, you know, like, public benefits, and they make it seem like we do. They say that we take jobs and we take all these free, like, resources, but in reality, we don't even qualify. And so, they could at least debunk those fucking lies that people are spreading, or I don't know, create programs for us, anything, you know. But instead they spend money on 1, prisons, and 2, detention camps. I say they're concentration camps at this point because a lot of people are going missing, dying, and being sexually harassed, you know. And I think they could be doing a lot more, but instead they're profiting off cheap labor from immigrants and people that are in prisons. And so I think Democrats too, they only care about money. And so we're fucked, basically. We need to change the whole system. That's the only way to change it.
Sounds about right.
Yep.
Makes sense. So.
What do you think would happen if DACA were to end?
Well, I think they need us because we contribute a lot.
Right.
We pay taxes. We're working. A lot of us aren't kids anymore. You know, we're in college or working. You know, and so I think that if they take DACA, they're going to be like affecting the economy, and not only that, but just like the amount of like diversity that we contribute in like tech and like the health industry and like law and like all those, like they're gonna take that from, you know, communities, so they're gonna affect a lot of communities. And not only that, but like the personal lives of people who benefit from it. And right now, like, there's a lot of people who don't even qualify for DACA, even though they're going to school and like they went to high school here. I don't know if you guys know, but they stopped taking your applications like in 2017, I believe. So only a few select people have it. And
well, do they decide, you said they stopped doing it after 2017?
Yeah,
so is it after that, is it they're only allowing a certain number to come in after that, or it's just after that's it?
No, it's just the people who already have it, they can renew it. No more people can apply.
So no one can apply for it, but people who already applied for it can renew their application.
Well, doesn't
I
I
think
mean that
was because
alone?
of Trump, right?
Well, doesn't that alone already seem like the end of DACA then in some ways? Because
Yeah,
it stops that kind of
trying.
legacy, right? I mean, in some ways, that's already like.
There's a judge in
everything to
San
a halt in
Francisco
some
who
ways.
actually blocked Trump's order or something. I'm not really sure, so I'm not gonna say, but like a lot of people have been like advocating, like especially people in sanctuary cities. But then again, like there's people in other states that they're being criminalized. Like in Florida, you know, there's like a law that if let's say like I'm speeding or something, you know, something small, the police could stop me and then also ask me if I'm a citizen, and so from there they can decide, you know, they call ICE, or I don't know how it works because I don't live there. But there's just a lot of laws that criminalize us, even though we're normal fucking people. And so we live like, I think DACA allowed us to kind of come out from behind the shadows and encouraged a lot of people to start speaking up on these issues because we have protection from deportation now. But if they take it, they now have our information, so we are at risk of deportation, going back to a country that we haven't been to like in ages, forever. I actually came here when I was 5 years old, and I have not been back to Mexico ever since. So to me, both places are my home, and I should have the right to call both places home, but it seems a lot of the time I'm not allowed to even be here. And for example, like, I want to go to grad school when I graduate. Like after a few years, I would like to have the option. And if they take DACA, I probably won't be able to do that.
I mean, you say you've been here since you were 5. I mean,
Yeah.
I would pretty much say that's mostly an American citizen, or at least you have lived here enough to assimilate, create a life, right? Something that you can call your own for the most part. I think if you by being in the DACA program, I mean, do you live with that like over your head? I mean, does that kind of stop you from maybe feeling like you are living a fulfilled life? Like, I mean, do you always have that in the back of your head that that's something that you have to worry about?
Yeah, it's something that a lot of us have to worry about every day. We do have protection from deportation, but anything can happen, and we worry a lot about people who are close to us who don't qualify for this. So that's why we advocate for help for all immigrants, not just us, because I think that in this country they value people by the education that they get, and they don't realize that not everybody has the opportunity, and we shouldn't like be selecting people just because, you know, maybe they have a BA or something. Like, my mom has been in this country for like 20 years and she has not committed one crime, but you know, they still criminalize her. So it's just something that we live with every day, like fearing that maybe we'll come home and our parents won't be there, or that they'll cancel the program and we won't be able to have the same life that we were like given a glimpse of by having DACA.
I mean, the way that you say that, I mean, it sounds like everybody should care about that. I mean, how do you think you can relay that same kind of message to get everybody to feel that same way, to say, I care, I don't want that to happen to my family, I should help these people who need help, right? I mean, like,
yeah.
How do you think we can help to achieve that goal, I guess?
I think just stay educated about the issue. Like, I do not mind telling people about it, but you know, a lot of people say, you know, we don't have to teach you about the issues. Like, it's happening, so it's happening now, so we should always stay informed and like spread the word. Like on social media, it's a very effective way. Or just even like talking to people that you know, like your parents or something, or like in your communities, if you guys like volunteer anywhere or anything like that. I mean, like, just to make sure that the places where you work or where you volunteer or anything, that they're welcoming to people like us. And to also keep in mind that not all immigrants look like this. You know, there's people who are queer, who are gay, you know, LGBT communities within the immigrant community, or like people from all over the world. It's not just Latinos, and a lot of people tend to think that it's just Latinos, but people who have DACA are from all over the world. Like, they're from Asia, Africa, you know, everywhere. And yeah, a lot of people don't know that because, I mean, again, they don't do the research, but I understand what they're coming from. I mean, they have a privilege where they're at a point in their life, you know, where they have that privilege to not care. But it's good that you guys are trying to learn about it. Like, I appreciate it, and hopefully that your project can help like other people open their eyes. where it's not just an immigration problem at this point. It's like has to do a lot too with the prison industrial complex. Like it affects like the immigration laws because they want to keep having cheap labor and they want to keep exploiting immigrants and people of color. And so immigration reform would take that from them. So that's the way I see it. Other people have other points of view.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you have any other questions?
No, he actually like hit like all my questions. So yeah.
Yeah, we super appreciate it. We're coming in and we're like, I don't know how many people are gonna necessarily want to be a part of our project. Hopefully somebody's willing to help, give us a little bit more of a well-rounded perspective other than what you see on the news. Because in this day and age, it's really hard to tell what kind of information is fully truthful or not biased. And I think that this personal interaction probably does a lot more than all the hours of research that I ever did before I even came here. So I think that is really great and will help us. So I appreciate it.
And so, just so you guys know, this is a center for undocumented students. So if you guys know anybody who is undocumented, they can always come here. We have counseling, we have an advisor. They offer a scholarship once a year. They have free legal assistance, tutoring, pre-printing, and it's not just for undocumented students, so you guys could also use our resources, and the more people that show up, the more funding we get, and the more we can do for our undocumented community as a state. So.
Our group member he's part of DACA, and he's the one who he's really he really wanted to do this topic.
His name's Tony?
Yeah.
I think I know him.
He's in here.
Does he have a beard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know him.
So thinking of all the benefits that an individual can reap from being a DACA recipient, let's say hypothetically that this video were to go nationwide and you guys had a national audience of people who didn't know what DACA was, what would be a statement that each one of you would like to share with the audience about DACA?
You would get more respect because you're not illegal anymore, but that isn't always the case. And I think one thing that we don't really talk about is how it affects us emotionally or mentally, because you think, oh, I'm getting a higher status in the immigration world, closer to citizenship, yet you're still not treated with the same amount of respect as a citizen, and sometimes you're even degraded more than if you were illegal. And I just want to let people know that we have to have a clean record in order to apply to DACA. You can't just have a bad record and then be like, oh, okay, I want this. You have to have a good record. And I found out that I didn't have citizenship or anything like that when I was 16. So I applied right away because I knew that colleges were right around the corner. And I just turned 18. So I don't have that much experience in this world, but I want other DACA recipients to know that we're all in this together, and you shouldn't feel less than, or you shouldn't feel like you're less than a human or just an alien because of your immigration status, because we're much more than just that, and we're all just trying to get with life and do what we can to survive and live a better life. Yeah.
So I've been in this country 26 years. I've been here since I was 1 year old, and I didn't choose that. I had no choice in that. I didn't ask to be brought over here the way that I was brought over here. I didn't ask to be brought up here, any of that. Nobody asked me what I wanted for my life. Someone decided on their own that being here was the best opportunity for us, and with that, I don't think it would be fair to get rid of a program that helps other individuals like myself that had no say in situations like that when we're just trying to live our lives. We're just like everybody else. Yeah, there's bad people here and there, but that's for another topic. Where you're looking at, people like us, students. It was weird because I learned I was undocumented when I was 13, and that completely changed my world. You know, I haven't, you know, I wasn't able to go to certain trips and things like that because of my citizenship. You know, I wasn't able to go to, you know, do a lot of things because of that. You know, I don't get financial aid, you know, because of that, certain things.
What do you think that did to your identity? I mean, hearing that information at 13, having that realization.
At first, I was very proud because I was like, all right, cool, like, you know, like I'm different from everybody, and that's nice because, you know, everybody wants to be, you know, unique in their own way, like special in their own way, and for me that was that. And then I started learning about how it actually affects my life. Then, you know, then I started getting told, oh, you got to be careful. You talk to about that. You know, you can't tell everybody. It's like, you know, how come your friends go on vacations internationally, like, you know, and stuff like that? How come we don't ever go to Mexico every now and then? You know? Yeah.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. It's time for a change, and it's time to stop these racist acts of trying to deport people who were raised in the U.S. Speak your voice for representation, and don't let these innocent people be deported because of a racist president. Support DACA.
Support Dreamers.